Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bilingual Find Your Place podcast. Desiring to show that it is possible to make unpopular choices, even out of the norm, and be happy, wishing to prove that happiness comes from choosing yourself rather than giving in to popular pressure, I receive people who have made the best of a situation that put them in the different box. My name is Stephanie Bergo, and I'm the host of this show. I've been working as a potential catalyst for more than 10 years, and my mission is to allow people to give themselves the right to be all that they are, and thus believe that their dreams are achievable. Welcome to these interviews. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Find Your Place podcast, the bilingual podcast where we meet amazing people who make choices to be the happiest, and sometimes those are unconventional. I'm super happy to have Ivan Rose Potter here this morning for me. It's in the morning. Thanks for accepting my invitation. I'm super happy.
So welcome and thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be here.
So we're gonna start. We know each other a bit. We've met like most of my invitees on the web, which is super fun, in women's group where we evolve together. And you've been you had the idea to open, I'm gonna say it, an accountability group so we can learn and put in practice and share the learning we were doing, and that's how we met. And I'm super happy you did that like that. Now we're friends, even though we live apart in the world. I invited you because so many things about yourself are first unconventional, and second, you've made choices that sometimes are not the most popular to today shine really bright on your ex. So clearly I want to learn a bit more. I know a bit the story, but I would like you to start wherever you want. So like a bit earlier in life, did you do studies? Were you planning on doing what you do today? Just give me a bit of insights.
So great. Yeah, I'm going to take you back into how it all started. And in 2008, I was 18 years old at the time. I was planning to go to conservatory to sing opera and vocal performance. So I was planning to go into music, and growing up in a very traditional Catholic household, and my family's from the Philippines, it was very much you either become a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, or an engineer. So this was the path set out. And the funny thing about that, Stephanie, is when I went to school, my first degree was in biomedical engineering. So
So
I went,
clearly you followed the path at
I
first.
clearly followed the path. I was very type A growing up. I stuck by the rules. I was the one who got straight A's. I was the smart kid in school, very quiet, very much introverted. I wouldn't speak much, but I was a great listener. And I see now why that is so valuable in my career that I have and that I do. And as I was going through school, I still attended choir. I was in 6 choirs during
Oh, wow.
grad school and undergrad. And I kind of secretly practiced singing and performing while I was doing the
Oh my
things.
God.
And I was balancing about 28 credits, which is usually traditional load is about 14 credits in the States in American universities.
Oh,
I was
wow.
taking about 8 courses. People usually take 4 on a full load, but I was taking 8. So
So always a high intensity.
high intense. Yep, to the point where I was taking a language class at NYU for Italian. I was singing in the 6 choirs. I was taking my graduate level studies in entrepreneurial management and enterprise project management while I was finishing my undergrad. And then I applied to med school shortly after, got in my first year, and went into physiotherapy. So this was 8 years total of schooling. I'll call it
Wow.
upper level education. I'm
And at that time, were you already thinking you were not exactly where you wanted to be? Or at that time, it was like, oh, that's cool, busy, love some stuff, doing school. And then after you were like, oh, that's not gonna be the.
so I'm an explorer, I'm an
Mm,
experimenter, and I'll use a little bit of human design because I'm a 1-3 projector in the world of human design. So, very much in leadership roles, but at the same time, experimenting and finding ways for me to fully express my conscious leadership. And at the time, it was more of let me do these things to please my family and please parents and do this externally. And it was easy for me. It wasn't a
mm,
burden to do that
yeah.
because I love learning. I love understanding the world, how
Yeah,
people
still.
work. Yeah, still. And I was also taking yoga at the time. I had injured my lower back. I had sciatica running down my right side of my back. I was a tennis player for about 16 years, so very
Mm,
prolific. I was
yeah.
in choir and I'm a pianist also for about 11 years I was practicing. So I had all of these things available to me to explore.
Mm,
And what really stuck out was when I decided to say, if I'm to continue this path and this journey for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, where is my time going? I didn't understand the exchange between time and money while I was going through school, but I noticed how my classmates in med school and engineering would be working 40 to 60 to 80-hour weeks. And I would see this time dedicated to the profession, but not to the personal exploration of ourselves and our soul. And I left. I actually quit med school my last year.
oh,
Uh,
wow.
it was 2016. I was 26 at the time. As I quit school,
You're
I
so
left.
young.
I was so young. Yeah. So yeah, even after 8 years of schooling, I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Parents were furious. They were like, why don't you just finish your degree? Why don't you just finish your board exam? Why don't you finish your clinicals, your rounds? And I said, no, I'm not meant to be in that field. I left. It was a turning point. I had vertigo, Stephanie. I had
Mm,
anxiety for the first time. I had issues in my body. I was getting cramps. I was feeling this internal pain. And I remember stepping onto my yoga mat at 26, at 2016. And as I stepped onto that mat, I developed a 6-day practice. I was waking up around 5:30 in the morning, driving 40 minutes to get to a yoga studio, and
mm,
then practicing about 2 to 3 hours a day. It transformed everything. It changed my life. It set me up for success at a level of discipline where I was learning about my body. I was learning
mm,
about me for the first time in a very long time, rather than just consuming information and knowledge. I got to experience life through the lens of myself and heal myself before I started to go onto my path of my
mm.
awakening and my expansion and my growth. And it was amazing. It was very powerful.
Extraordinary. And it was a very courageous decision. Like you've studied for years. You come from, and it's not a small thing. You're coming from a Filipinos immigrant family that um, wanted you to succeed, and
Right.
sometimes success is med school is, and some people don't get in. You were in and you decided not to finish, and then you changed path completely. So at that time you start knowing that first you're very different from most of the people, you're like your colleagues, for example, in engineering or in med school. And second, you start doing courageous change in your life. So after yoga arrived, what
Yes.
happened?
Yeah, I'll share this with you. Two messages came up as I was connecting, and I'm thinking back about this story. Is I remember the director of my physical therapy school, of the doctorate school, told me I can't wait for you to be a CEO of a successful company one day. And I remember when I was leaving school, she said this out loud.
Oh, wow.
And I also remember, and this is funny because I'm back in New Jersey visiting parents. I'm sitting in a vegan restaurant, and one of my professors comes up to me and says, "Are you Ivan?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Wow, I'm your prosthetics and design teacher from school." And he's like, "You know, I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing. I was so envious of your voice and
Oh, wow.
just the way I spoke, the way I carried myself. My teachers already felt and saw the leadership qualities and how I activate people with my voice and my sound. So those gave me those little courageous steps and leaps to say,
Mm.
I can do this. I can go out there. I can create something from nothing. And I was just a yoga teacher at the time, Stephanie. I was making maybe around 2000 a month, and then that became 3000, and then that became $5,000 a month. And I was on my own time, on my own terms. And
Mm.
I remember I got a one-way plane ticket 2017 January to Thailand, to Koh Samui. I made my first vision board that year,
Oh, wow.
and I had it there. I said, time for me to set out to create a life that I desire. That was my first trip out of the States. I was there for 7 weeks. My classmates were taking their board exams during that time.
Mm.
The moment I touched down, I'm lying down on my yoga mat. It was this beautiful yoga retreat. Tears are streaming down my eyes. I'm thanking the one that was courageous, the tiny little voice that was so subtle and saying, "You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to move into a different path." I listened to that voice. I was crying tears of gratitude and saying, "Thank you for giving me this opportunity." I got married that year as well. And all these things leading up, so
Mm.
crazy. I landed a director position for yoga teacher trainings about 6 months later. And I was at the top in terms of the yoga world to be a
Mm.
director running teacher trainings, running education. It was for about 100 teachers for 7 studios, and we would teach about 253 classes a week. So I was the one managing who's
All
teaching
of this.
class, who's entering, educating, and consulting, and inviting new teachers in. And I thought I said, "Oh, I made it." And I said, I'm done." I could like put my feet up on the desk and say, "I'm a director. I achieved that level of success in the 9 to 5 world." And then all of a sudden, this is the pivot point when everything changes. I was in a retreat in Florida,
Mm.
uh, sitting with uh, sacred medicine, sacred plant medicine, mother ayahuasca. So for those who aren't familiar with it, it's like, what's ayahuasca? It's this deep plant medicine from the jungles of South America. And I was sitting with a shaman, and my whole life, Stephanie, just like a blink, just like that. You're to quit your 9 to 5. You're going to go through a divorce when you get back to Seattle, where I was at the time in Washington State. You are going to change and shift and pivot, and you're going to leave everything behind. You're going to write an album, you're going to write a book, and you're also going to meet your soulmate. So all these things started happening. I didn't know what to do. My heart's racing. Now, as I share this with you,
Oh, wow.
I left everything. When I get back, April 22nd, my birthday, 2019, I get served divorce papers. My ex takes the bank account, the paychecks, our savings, the house, our car. I'm left homeless for 6 weeks. I'm left with nothing. I have a friend who lives on the East Coast, so he drives and I drive his car 3,500 miles from Seattle back to New Jersey. I I come back home, essentially this total prodigal son, prodigal daughter story, and I'm back in my attic. When I was 13
Mm.
years old, this is my childhood attic, saying, "What do I do next? What do I create?" Again, my yoga mat comes back. Let me just roll out my mat. Let me just put the mat out. Let me practice. Let me connect back to my roots.
Mm.
I pull out my yoga mat. 2 days later, I arrive at a studio. I ask, "I'm a new teacher. I'm just here visiting in town." Start getting back into teaching again after 6 months hiatus. And then I'm getting back into this mood, this mode of, I can do this again. I can start from nothing, from a place of
Mm.
limited resource. I can still create freedom and the abundance of freedom. 6 months later, Stephanie, I meet my soulmate, Solomon, in a Bob Proctor convention out in Dallas, Texas. We're learning about cryptocurrency and finances, and I wasn't asking for him. I said I was complete. I went through a deep inner healing of abandonment, of loss, of loneliness. And I said, I need to love myself before I can share this with anyone else. I was very much in a codependent relationship most of my life. I was 8.5 years with my previous ex. And at the time, I look back to it, and all of this, what people may call trauma or drama, feels like 4 seconds. Even though it's happened about 4 years ago, it feels like 4 seconds in my life. And it doesn't, I don't hold a heaviness or a burden to it. I actually bless my ex for giving me the chance to what the universe said to me out loud was, Ivan, you're ready to receive everything that's been waiting for you. Ivan, you're ready to receive everything that's been waiting for you. And there was 16 garbage bags, Stephanie, in my living room. When I walked to my ex, I handed my wedding band, my engagement ring, I put it in his hands. There was 16 black garbage bags lined up. I remember packing those into my friend's car. And I was saying to myself, the universe packed everything for me to start over.
Mm.
And I didn't know
Were
where to
you
go.
scared? Like you're talking about it
Oh my
now,
gosh.
years after,
I
and
know.
people don't know you, and
I
they're
know.
like, "Oh my God, he's like a superstar." But at that time, were you, even though you strongly believe that things arrive for a reason and that
Yeah.
brings you to, were you scared? And what type of feeling were you?
So good. I was I wasn't lost. I was being found. That was the word that
Mm.
came up. People would say I was lost. I had, like, my reputation was ruined. I left everything behind. I left a world where I was already lost in it.
Mm.
But when I found myself, I remember one client, I had like my 2 week notice. This was off my own volition. So I said, I'm putting my 2 week notice. I didn't have to leave, but I felt complete with my position as a director.
Mm.
And a student came up to me and asked, wow, you have such a great energy. And she doesn't know I was going through a divorce at the time and all these things happened. I
Mm.
said, and she was interested in energy work and energy healing. And I was teaching Reiki at the time. I was a Reiki master teacher. And I remember sitting with her. I was at her home. After an hour session, she writes a check for $1,111.11 and then signs it and gives it. And I knew that. I was like, it used to take me about 60 hours a week, Stephanie, to create $1,000. And then the universe showed me, you can create it in an hour. And I started
That's
thinking
crazy.
differently.
Mm.
I started thinking differently. Before I went to Thailand also, when I left school, because I had no
Mm-hmm.
income, January that year I made $1,000. February I made 2,000. March I made 3,000. April I made 5,000. June. So I would see these little peaks in the
Evidence.
universe. Evidence is the word, yes.
Mm.
I saw tangible evidence. The universe was fueling and supporting my deeper desires and dreams at such a level that broke through my 9 to 5 mindset and reality. I was an employee, but I said, I'm not supposed to work for someone. I'm not here to work on someone else's dreams. I'm supposed to create mine to allow others to be in their dreams as a physical, tangible reality.
Mm.
And then that year I met Solomon. 6 months later, we're up in my parents' attic, just upstairs, one floor up above this room, and we make $63,000 in the first 6 weeks of launching our business. It was during COVID, out of all worlds. This was June 2020. 6 months later, we make a six-figure business, upwards of 145,000. 7 months later, we sign our first $111,000 client in a single day, paid in full. And then 6 months after that, 11 months total, we create $1 million business in 11 months. So the You see the
Compound
concept,
effect.
yep, all reached its effortless fluid motion. And yeah, we're financially free. We are have time freedom, money freedom, and now we can lead with service in what I call
Mm.
is the quantum playground. We lead with our inner child. We lead with the love of the child, as close to source as source can get, and we express our divinity through our artistic expression as a visionary artist. So
Mm.
yeah, we intentionally teach art now. We create living masterpieces through people's story and through their narrative, and that's what we shine now. I had to understand my story of struggle, of pain,
Mm.
of becoming, of my own hero's journey, and now I can help celebrate and call other people to celebrate theirs as well.
And for people that are wondering, like, is he still or is she still doing yoga? Do you want to explain a
Right.
bit more where you're at with Solomon now?
This is so good. Yeah, we started as relationship coaches when COVID hit. All the yoga studios actually closed during COVID.
Yes.
So, yeah, this was like a closing of a chapter. And
Mm.
when we opened a new chapter, we got deeper into meditation, into quantum mechanics, into quantum design, into more of what I call is the the ascension and an accelerated ascension of what we're set out to do. We say this in our business that individuals in our world, their 10-year visions are created in 1 year or less. So we look at this approach of visionary expansion.
Mm.
How do we create that into a physical, tangible reality in 1 year or less? It's about shifting our identity. It's about understanding that we aren't just a profession. We aren't just numbers to our name. We aren't just a bunch of letters to the end of our name. I don't even use my, I'll say it, professional degrees in a way when I
Mm-hmm.
introduce myself professionally to someone. People ask, what do you do for a living? And I say, I live my life through my design. And by that, my lifestyle is a byproduct. And my
Mm.
business is a byproduct of this lifestyle design. It's completely free of anyone else's story. I design my life as my main actor, as the main actress in my own movie. And that is how I share my life. So I direct my own movie
Mm.
like I'm living in my own film, in my own movie. And it shifted everything.
And was it always easy? Like, did you have doubt and did you question? Because I know you have like special gift,
Yeah,
very very amazing gift. Maybe you want to share about it at the same time. But
sure.
uh, were you like completely sure because of those gifts, for example, or were you doubting? Just how did it goes?
It wasn't doubt. What happened a lot, Stephanie, was people telling me no. People saying, you can't get paid as a singer, you can't get paid as a speaker, you can't get paid for your voice, you can't make money in music and art, because that was what I originally intended.
Mm.
And my business is run in such a way where we're an education, an entertainment, and an events business and company. So we run retreats, we run live events, we go off into unconventional spaces. We'll be in Fiji in November. We were in Croatia about in April time. So I think about my life and the design of it. It wasn't the doubt, it was other people's doubt about my abilities. And when I felt that, I felt a reclamation of my own power that was no
Mm.
longer circumstantial based on other people's ideas of how powerful I could be. I grew up in a space, a small town. Avenel, New Jersey is the name of the town. And people were very close minded in their approach to saying, oh, you're just supposed to get a job, you're supposed to have a
Mm.
family, you're supposed to get a home and
Traditional.
life. Exactly.
Mm-mm.
And I said, I'm very non-traditional,
Yes.
traditional in every sense of the word. And I said, I cannot create my life the way I visualize it in a box that I've been given.
Mm.
I was too small. I said, I'm a circle living in a box, in a square life. I broke out of that box and now I just create circles. I create circles of influence. I create circles where I can appreciate who I am. And that celebration of my story allows someone else to celebrate theirs.
That's so beautiful. And I feel like, and I don't know, but maybe at the beginning it was like, let me prove you wrong. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be able to do whatever I feel
Yes.
like.
Yes.
And the more I use a lot the word evidence, but the more you bring evidence, the more you believe in your abilities, your vision, and that's what I'm saying to my client every week. You're not
Right.
sure? Perfect. That's normal. Like doubting is part of the life, and maybe it's too outside of the box. It's a big change. You've
Right.
never seen it before. Perfect. Create small evidences that are just proving right. So
Right.
one step at a time, one evidence at a time, that people are, for example, you said we had a 100,000 client who paid in full. I mean,
Yes.
that's a very strong evidence.
Very
Like
strong.
the first time it arrives, you're like, oh my God, that just arrived. And I was lucky to be like in the group. So I saw the last year completely, and I was like, oh my God. So they are taking out offers 100,000, and for now it never happened to me yet, and I'm like, oh, that's an evidence that it's possible.
Yes.
How?
Yes.
Honestly, I still don't know how it can happen, but for I see so many people I hang out with on
Yes.
the web mostly, and some in real life, and I'm like, okay, so it happens to a friend, it happens to you,
Yes.
it happens to so
Yes.
that's, for me, it's an evidence. So now I check the box possibility. And then I'm like, okay, perfect. The universe, or whatever you want to call it, is gonna make sure that my path's gonna make me cross that line one day.
Yes.
How? For now, that's a big question.
Oh, this is a wonderful question. And I'll share two ways of this as well. When you mentioned doubt, Stephanie, what was invisible to most people, because they didn't know any evidence of how I was creating my results, I didn't have doubt because I had visible evidence in my world, in the magic of what I created, what I saw, that I was like, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path. I can create this. I know I can create this. And this is a crazier fact as well. Now we've had clients invest upwards of 250,000 US dollars just for a year of mentorship in full. So this has been a bigger shift in saying we are no longer just a seven-figure business. We are well on our way to eight figures and beyond. And this is evidence for that, which I'm so excited. And I think about, we talk about how do we create tangible evidence for something that feels so magical or unattainable in certain ways. There is this sense of drive, velocity, and momentum when we are able to remove ourselves from what I call is time. Time, as our most valuable asset, is created if we take point A to point B. Time creates this level of separation where people experience suffering and profound pain because they aren't where they desire to be, even though they know it's available to them. I've essentially rerouted, and I create this every month. Actually, Stephanie, I start from zero. I start from a 0 point, a zero dimension, as if I don't have anything at all. And I don't attach my next month, if it's a six-figure month, if it's going upwards into higher seven figures, I actually don't even think about the previous success I've created. I start and pretend like it's all brand new. Like I'm just, oh, it's my first year. It's my first year in business. It's my first month in business. I start every month like that. I've been calling it an empty cup. So I empty my cup daily
Mm.
so that the universe is able to replenish and fill it. The same way when I released those 16 garbage bags, I was like, oh, let all of
Something
that go.
amazing is gonna happen.
Something is amazing. I'm creating room for it to happen. I'm creating spaciousness
Mm.
rather than attaching myself. When is it going to happen? Is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it going to happen a year from now? I don't have a set trajectory or
Mm.
goals planned out. I focus on the vision. And through that vision, I have an empty, spacious cup that allows the universe to do the work on behalf of me. I
Mm.
show up in play, in gratitude, in joy, in my exuberance of life and celebration of life, where perpetual celebration is the new vibration. And
Mm.
that's where I stay. That's where I fill my energy. That's where I sit in my cup. Gratitude, celebration, gratitude, even if it hasn't
Celebration
happened
again.
yet, even if it
Yes,
hasn't happened.
clearly. And maybe some people at home listening to us are like, yeah, well, if I do like 250K with a client, I'd be also emptying my cup. Were you when you were broke and bankrupt, and
All of it.
were you that trustful?
I had nothing to lose. That was essentially what happened. I was at negative and at zeros, and beyond that, I said anything I put out into the world is going to be a plus. Like anything I put
Mm.
out now, and I'm not saying everyone has to go through this to
No, no.
experience this level
Yeah.
of success. It's really, I think about it, our brokenness, what breaks us. I have one beautiful mentor. He says, we're never broken, we're just bruised. We can be
Mm.
hurt, we can be beat up, but we have such resiliency. Our soul is this infinite quantum absolute powerful technology that
Mm.
tunes our mind to create clarity and focus and a direction towards our dreams and our desires. And when we're connected to that, we stay plugged into that, the doubtfulness, the limited belief, the one that says that's not possible, the dial is turned so low. Like I put it like a
Mm.
2% volume. The only thing I hear is every move I make from now on, I have everything to win. I have nothing to lose because I have everything to gain. So there's nothing to lose.
Mm.
Everything I create is an expansion of who I am. It's a constant evolution and growth. It's an exponential expansion.
That's so precious. That's amazing, because it means that every step we take, and we start from the ground level or at the level you're now at,
Yes,
every step you take is a step that brings more of the magic you into this world, and you only can do like great stuff. And so often
completely.
we dim, you said, like for the volume, we put up those nasty voices, and
Yes.
unfortunately down those dreamy voices.
Wow.
And by doing the contrary, you've built step by step in a very short amount of time, like in that cases, a life that is very, very much like you want to live it every single day.
Completely. Completely. This comes up, Stephanie. It would have taken me 22 years to create what I've created in less than 20 months in terms of that level of activation in my health, in my wealth, in my relationships. And I think about those 22 years now that I have access to. I'm
Hmm.
going to distinguish this point to say that when you create this level of abundance and success, I've completely removed myself from the equation of life
Hmm.
where my inner critic, the one that doubts in my abilities, people who doubt in my level of creation and success, I don't take it personally anymore because that person isn't running the show. I said that
Mm.
making millions is simply you living out your childhood dreams that you've always dreamed of. My 4-year-old is in the driver's seat from now on. It's from that space of magic, it's Disney World every single day. There
That's
is no
crazy.
employee in my business. There is not me working in a business as an employee. The business to me and Solomon is it's a
That
child. We
it's a
take care of
dream.
this child with care and
Mm.
devotion and say this child is going to create a lifestyle and a legacy of freedom for those who have never forgotten the child who can imagine a world that is worth dreaming.
That's that's amazing, and it's so strong. Like, and what I see, and I've known you for a year,
Yes.
and it's a compound effect, and each day it's a new decision. Like, it's like being in a couple or being in a friendship or being in a, every day is a renewal of that energy you want to put in your relationship, your business, your clients, your life. So when you say I empty the cup every day and it's filled with whatever's there, but it's amazing. It's because, like, your vision is every day to be the more you and the more happy, fulfilled, giving, because you're very, very what's the word? Um,
I believe it's like
Generous.
generous. Yeah, the
Yes, thank
generosity
you.
of it.
You're
Yeah.
very generous, and I think that's part also of the equation, like being sharing, being there, being
Yes.
loving, like in your well, soon to be marriage. In your family, in your, that's amazing. And a small part I want to touch is, like, the
Mhm.
compound effect doesn't touch only you. We've talked together about your mom retiring from
Oh yes.
her job because
Yeah.
you did so. So
Yeah.
it's all around you
I said
also.
this in April this year. I said, Stephanie, when I retire, mom, which I did in April, I said, you have to retire. She was going to retire March of this year, but she finally retired August. She's a
Mhm.
nurse for over 26, 30 years, and she's finally retired. They're heading off to the Philippines for about 3 months, starting November. I also, with Salman, we're working with our first set of celebrity clients, which is really exciting. And we just got our first speaking gig on stage with keynote speakers, upwards to the level of Tony Robbins. These are speakers who generate upwards of 50 to $100,000 just to speak for 40 minutes to 30
Wow,
minutes.
that's a
And
dream.
we're getting a feature in Forbes very soon. So we're getting into print, magazine, and also press media. And yeah, we have one of our first retreats that's going to happen in April of next year. So everything's lined up. It's amazing just to be paid to share your story and to speak your truth. That's essentially the storyteller in all of us, the collective universal narrative, as I say.
Exactly, and the amazing part is that it's a vision and not a path design. Like, you
Right.
don't know, like, in 3 months what's gonna happen. You only know which direction you want to take, and that's for me something very important sometimes. And you were telling me it at the beginning of the discussion, but sometimes people are so clear about what they want to do and where they want to go, that they don't leave any space for new stuff to come in differently, to new experiences, to shift to. So sometimes being so eager to go somewhere,
Hmm.
we cut some branches of the road we could take that would have bring
Yes.
us much more further.
Yes. I say the future vision of you is always greater than the current version of you. And as leaders, this is the next level of leadership. When we lead with a vision, that vision is where I put 100% of my energetics. I lead with the vision because I know this current version of me in my playfulness is getting to experience and celebrate all the things that are already happening as that vision is coming to fruition. And when we can take ourselves out of the equation and say, hey, this life is here, we let go of all of this. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I'm not too successful. Oh, I don't have that resource. I started from zero. And the beauty about mentors, as you know, Stephanie, very well, you're an amazing mentor to your students, to your clients.
Thank you.
The power of mentorship, it's that proximity where we are in a cyclical celebration. We are in connection with one another. No one is greater or less than in that room.
Clearly.
And that is when people understand we are humans seeing each other's stories and celebrating one another without class, without creed, without orientation, without any of those other things. There is space to create a powerful connection through community. And that's what takes us into the next level. That's what takes us into the next frontier. My community is what allows me to have evidence to believe that anything is possible. We've had clients creating 5-figure, 6-figure months. We have a client who's going to be in a billboard in Times Square, featured in Times Square, podcast reviews, paid speaking gigs and opportunities as well. And we had quite a few clients already citing their first celebrity clients, which is so exciting. So yeah, we became the top 1% of the 1% in less than 11 months. It actually happened in a day.
That's amazing. I couldn't have ended this podcast episode better than what you just said. Like, there's nothing else to add. It's like,
It's
believe
amazing.
strongly that everything's possible and you're gonna go
Yes.
the way you want, clearly.
It's amazing. I have a gift for you, Stephanie, and your viewers as well. Yeah.
I love gifts.
I love gifts too. I have this amazing, it's a 10-day experience, totally complimentary for your viewers and yourself. It's called You Are a Master Manifestor, and I share more about this emptying of your cup practice, how to fill your cup, and through 10 days, you experience what I created in my own for the past 10, 12 years. I compounded it into a 10-day experience. So
Oh, thank you. Super
yeah, you're
nice.
welcome.
You're gonna send me the link. I'm gonna put it under the episode and everything.
Amazing.
Thanks so much for your
You're
time.
welcome.
Thanks, people, for being here, listening. I hope you had as much fun as I had. Thanks a lot and have an amazing day today.
Thank you. Je t'aime to all the viewers and to you as well.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Stephanie, bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Come back next week with another guest that has a fascinating story to tell and that will inspire you to take action towards your own path. If you like this show, I'm inviting you to leave a 5-star review. That way, it helps us to spread the work and fulfill our mission even more. The podcast is also available in a video format on YouTube. You'll find it under the same name, Trouve ta place, Find your place, under Catalyseur de Potentiel. Let's connect on social media. You'll find me as Stéphanie Bergo or Catalyseur de Potentiel on Facebook or Instagram. Have a great day.